Ah yes, and welcome back to the Splatterthon, where we'll be presenting you with some prime time terror. So sit back and enjoy this special report.
Your big break in TV. Welcome prime time, bitch.
Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to a Primetime Terror special report. Today, we're going to be discussing Chucky Season 1. So, this is super exciting. This was something that Luke was very adamant that I get on board with before Season 2 started. And I wanted to do it. We want to really kick off Primetime Terrors with a nice big show, especially with it leading into October. And Chucky kind of fit that mold pretty well. And considering we discussed Child's Play Season 2 a couple weeks back on the podcast, this was just kind of like the perfect time. And I was intimidated, I'm not going to lie, because I don't do well with TV. It's like I love television. I do, but like I tend to watch episodes and then take a break and watch something else and then come back to it. And on top of that, with all the movies we watch for the shows and all the things we have to keep up with and all that, it's just like I was worried I wasn't going to get through it. But honestly, and just kind of open this up, after about that first episode, I was so hooked into this. I finished it in I think like a week and a couple days.
Yeah, and I think it's 8 episodes, I believe.
It's only 8 episodes. I was very happy to see that because like things have been getting a little longer as we go along here, and I was just like, man, I don't know if I can, do anything more than 8 episodes. Like that might be pushing it for me, but nope. I was committed. I got it in here, and I was very happy to check this thing out.
And this was something that I had been kind of keeping tabs on, because we had the reboot remake of Child's Play come out, and when that was being announced, they were also saying that Don Mancini was working on a TV show that's going to be almost, separate universes, almost, at the same time, which I thought was, really intriguing, and just from a franchise perspective there of how they were going to tackle this, and I gravitated toward the television show because, all the original Child's Play films, and I grew up with them, so Chucky was always on my radar. So I really gravitated toward the television show. So I was watching this as soon as it debuted. I didn't watch it for the first few episodes, and then I eventually caught up and was watching weekly for this. So like you're saying, this is something that you really do get hooked on because it's fun, it's light, it's digestible. It really moves, I think, from episode to episode. And I think this is where we had just previously talked about it. I can't remember on what. I don't know if it was a Sunday Scaries or not, about kind of these horror properties being kind of moving or gravitating toward television. And I think Chucky is a perfect blueprint for that, of how this works perfect, where you kind of divvy up kills, keep it moving story-wise, and tell that story arc over those 8 episodes.
No, I agree. This was a really good fit for this. And I got to say, tonally, this fits so well with Child's Play 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And granted, I preface this by saying if this is your first time on the channel, Child's Play is something that I've really not dove into too deep. I've only seen the first 2 and the remake. As far as the other movies go, I haven't really checked them out. So this is another piece of content for me that's kind of fresh. So there were some references in here that I didn't know anything about. I know I had to call you about a couple things, but it was just one of those things where it's like it's still very digestible and still very easy to follow if you've only seen those first 2 films. And I appreciated that. I thought that was really nice. It definitely, like I said, feels the most consistent with those 2 movies. And I like that we're kind of, from what I understand with the series, kind of getting back to that, because for a little while there, takes a bit of a detour. They go a little harder into the comedy. And, I will say one thing that shocked me, and we are talking spoilers here since it's been out for over a year, was that, we get so much into Charles Lee Ray's backstory. Like we see him as a kid, we see him as an adult, we see him, all this stuff. And I thought that, when that first was introduced and things like that, I was like, okay, this might derail things a little bit, but no, it really kept a consistent tone. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, and for me, like going into, I kind of get iffy with too much backstory for your killers and things like that. And for me, I mean, I think the stuff as a kid, for me, I wasn't really a huge fan of. I didn't have a big problem with it, but I was like, it seemed a little slow for me. I really enjoyed meeting Tiffany and Charles Lee Ray, that dynamic, especially where they kind of flip it on its head a little bit, where she's a redhead at first. You're not really expecting that's going to be Tiffany. So I really like what they did with that and kind of showing that relationship, starting from scratch where they met and then how it leads up to current time. So it's like one of those things where I never really thought we were going to really get that backstory, but I'm glad that they put that in the first season here because it really gels well when they do those flashbacks. It doesn't feel out of place. It feels like there is a reason for it, especially with Tiffany back and Jennifer Tilly. It all works perfect. I think kind of taking that jump and adding that backstory in became a big positive because again, sometimes that does tend to slow the story down if you get too muddled into that backstory and so focused. But the way they kind of edited it and just made it work into the story added so much to the backstory of Tiffany and Chucky, because it's like that they're obviously the mainstays in this franchise, and then going forward into season 2, they're probably going to be a bigger part of that relationship after seeing how the finale played out.
Yeah, I love how they did it. You can really tell that Don Mancini had a plan, had a vision for how he wanted to really treat these characters with some more respect and kind of bring them back to the forefront in a way. And I also really love the new cast. I think that when you deal with kids in 8th grade, and if I have to give any real criticism to this, because they are in like 8th grade, are they not?
Yeah, and they're pretty young. I don't know exactly what grade they are in, but it's
I
like that teetering of into almost high school, if not early high school. I'm
I
not
know
sure.
everybody has a different experience at that age. Some people are doing stuff a little earlier than others, but there was a level of just like, okay, I remember being this old, like we're talking like 14, maybe early 15. God, maybe even less than that, maybe like 13, 14 actually.
Mm,
And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, like sometimes the believability factor for the kind of stuff they were doing with the partying and the drinking and stuff like that didn't really sit with me as like being too realistic. But again, that's more nitpicking than anything. Because it's like at the end of the day, the characters are well written. And I do appreciate that. I like the depth that we get with them. There was a couple of elements of things that at first, especially dealing with, I forget her character's name, but our main female,
I was hoping you were going to tell me.
yeah, no, I can pull it up here, but it's one of those things where it's like she, towards the start of her character, is a bit extreme for me.
Yeah.
Because like she's doing things, especially alluding to the main character's father, like her Halloween costume and stuff, where
Yes.
I was just like, dude, nobody, Lexi, that's what it is.
Lexi, that's right.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I don't think anybody in their right mind would let her do something like this. Like that is beyond fucked. So, it kind of crossed a little bit of a barrier for me where it's just kind of like maybe these are more Hollywoodized kids. But I still think they're written pretty well once you get past all that. Once you start getting into the actual meat of the show and they're dealing with Chucky as a situation. And they start to kind of work together. I enjoy them a lot. I love the little reference to Cape Fear
Yes.
with the one character. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not getting everybody's names. Devin. Yeah, Devin was probably my favorite character next to Jake. I absolutely love their relationship together. I thought that was cute, but I also like how smart and cunning he is and just how he's able to kind of use not only his mother's background of being a detective, but also the fact that he also bias here runs a podcast where he's talking
Yes.
about true crime and everything. And I just like that. I like how it all worked together. I loved Devon Sawa playing, dual roles here. That was really interesting. I'm
That was perfect.
real curious to see what he does in season 2. Like this. So the cast to me was perfect. And I mean, of
Yeah.
course, Chucky, everybody else who was coming back from the other movies, all great as well.
And I would say Lexi's character for me was probably the biggest annoyance because I had been waiting for those early episodes. I think the portrayal of Jake's father as a Halloween costume, for me, I find that irredeemable. So it's like I've been waiting for her to get the knife, throughout the whole season. So then when she kind of turns and becomes one of the main cast, I'll say that it's still an annoyance for me. I'm still waiting for her, for Chucky to get her. But that was like one of my favorite parts in terms of, we've dealt with the Andy Chucky dynamic for so long, where in this one we're seeing kind of Chucky trying to teeter Jake a little bit in terms
Yeah,
of
and
doing his bidding.
I
And I
love
thought that was
that.
a great dynamic to kind of bring to this, because it's like, Chucky's is so iconic that you can't help but love him no matter what he's doing. So you're kind of like, maybe Jake's gonna go on his side, and you kind of want it for a little
I
while.
do. I really
No?
did. I was like, this is a really interesting take. And it does kind of get to that standard Chucky story stuff where they start trying to fight against him. But yeah, for a while there, I agree with you. That was a really interesting take. And it when you find out why he is doing it too,
Yeah,
it all makes sense. And I love how it resolves.
yeah, and I love. I mean, Chucky, Brad Dorff is Chucky. You don't miss. So it's like,
Mm.
having him back in, where you're watching it, we just did Child's Play 2, and it's like you're watching that for an hour 25, and you're hoping it doesn't end just because you love the portrayal that he has of Chucky. So it's like, to get this throughout 8 episodes, and you're going to be getting a little more, you get excited for it, because oh, I tune in next week and I get a little bit more. So to actually live through this for 8 full episodes and know we're getting that season 2, I think is perfect, because this is it's on par with Robert England and Freddy Krueger, where it's like you just love the portrayal here so much that you want to keep seeing more and more of it. And I think they really got Chucky back to form as to what we're used to seeing. I mean, there is some comedy in it, but it's not an overlay of comedy. Especially a lot of the kills in this, I think, were perfect. One of the ones that really sticks out is the dishwasher scene. I think that one
Yeah.
for me is a really great concept. And then at the beginning, what is his name, Lucas, I believe, Jake's
Yes, with his
father,
death.
Devin
Yeah.
Sawa, one of his characters. I thought that was a very unique way of Chucky kind of like throwing up all the alcohol in order to get him electrocuted. I thought that was a lot of fun. So I think they really did a great job of making this kind of some tongue-in-cheek kills, but not overly tongue-in-cheek where it takes you out of it. It's just, it teeters on that line of perfect fun and horror.
I agree. And I think that really would encapsulate this whole series for me so far, is that it is that perfect mix of fun and horror. Dare I say, this is one of the best modern adaptations of one of these 80s characters. And I never thought, a few months ago I'd be saying that about Chucky. But, it is one of those things where it's like, I think that this overall has really sold me. I'm excited for season 2. I'm excited to see them continue this path. I think that this is a really good home for him. I think television works nicely. The fact that they're not shying away from the gore, the language, or anything that we're used to, it's still very much rated R Chucky. I'm excited. I really hope they can keep this momentum going with season 2. Which, since this is technically the first episode of Primetime Terrors, with this being, as we've stated, a Primetime Terror special report where we're just kind of giving you our broad thoughts on a whole season. With Primetime Terror, we'll be going episode by episode as they release with you guys every week this month, and to continue on with season 2. So you'll get our kind of live, raw reaction kind of deal of that. And then maybe we'll have like a nice little bow on the end of it where we just talk for maybe 30-40 minutes just about the whole season in general.
Yeah.
So you'll have that to look forward to. But yeah, in closing, for me, this is a really great series, and I would say that if you were teetering on it, if you didn't know how to feel about it like I did, definitely give it a watch, because I think it works really well, and I think it's a lot of fun. And I honestly, like, with everything we've got in the last couple of years, that recent Texas Chainsaw, the Halloween films, and everything, there's just a lot of love and care here, and it's nice to see that this character is getting his due. And it does, again, encourage me to say that maybe some of these characters would do well from going to TV for a little while.
Yeah, and I think we have a strong course here where they kind of found where they were going with this, because we always talk about Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers, all the typical, all the big heavy hitters here, and they've been in the conversation for so long. I felt like Chucky, after Bride, I feel like Chucky was just kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit, where he wasn't at the big boys table anymore. Whereas this has become one of the strongest properties out there, at least in recent times, where it's like we all kind of have our different ideas in terms of the Halloween franchise. And I mean, we haven't seen Freddy or Jason for a minute. So, and then you just talked about how Leatherface has been doing. So it's like to have something this positive come out of the horror community and kind of be excited for season 2 is such a big plus because Chucky's been lost for a little bit. I mean, they've been taking, we've had a few films, but a lot of like general audiences hadn't really seen those because those weren't theater releases. Those were just straight to Blu-ray or streaming. So to actually have this and have a buzz, even when this had come out, I knew a lot of conversations happening because this was easily accessible on television. So I'm glad that Chucky's back in that conversation. Like I talked about in Child's Play 2. I mean, I love the aesthetic. I love the personality of Chucky in general. I think they've nailed everything. His look is great. I loved him kind of half burnt for a little bit. I wish it would have kept that look for maybe a little bit longer because it was actually
it was
terrifying.
a really cool look. It was pretty scary.
And that's where it's like this dynamic of Chucky where he's likable, but then they can also flip that switch where first you're rooting for him and then you're rooting against him. And a lot of people, you can't do that with a lot of these slashers where it's like sometimes you're just stuck in their corner and just want him to kill everybody. But here I think they did a great job of creating so many likable characters. And, we had talked about Hocus Pocus 2 where there weren't really any stakes or backstory, where I feel like this is a really rich backstory for a lot of these characters and what's going on, that even if you do like Chucky, you do find yourself rooting for a lot of these other characters. So by default, you end up not liking Chucky, which is very hard to do because we're both Chucky fans now. But
Yep.
This is definitely, if you haven't checked out season 1, where, I mean, obviously we just spoiled some of it for you, but that doesn't kill the entire season. So if you haven't watched it, definitely take that dive into those first 8 episodes. I think it's all on Peacock. Get yourself ready for season 2 because I know we are.
Absolutely. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap us up here for our review of Chucky Season 1. Again, if you have not checked it out, please do so. I think it's really worth your time if you're an avid horror fan, especially when we're talking about these recent icons. Other than that, if you guys want to keep up with us, we are in the midst of the Splatterthon, so you can keep up with us. And we do have a little giveaway going on. We're giving away a copy of the Black Phone and a Splatterthon mug for all to see. So yeah, you'll be able to pick those up. All you got to do is go to that video and comment what your favorite horror film is, and you'll be entered right away. Drawing will be done on a live stream on the 31st. So yeah, definitely get involved with that. If you do want to keep up with us on our social media, we are on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I almost said something else, but TikTok. Yeah, you can keep up with us there for out of the theater reactions, conversation pieces, all the good stuff and above. And other than that, we got a lot of great content hitting the channel this week, so keep it up and keep checking it out. And yeah, stay tuned for season 2 review episode 1 for Chucky. So I'm excited. Luke, you got anything for him?
No, just a lot of great stuff. I'm so excited for season 2. I've been waiting for this since the end of 2021. They left a clever hook, I thought, so I'm really intrigued to see where we're gonna go. I'm more than excited to spend another at least 8 episodes with our favorite killer, Charles Lee Ray.
Me too. But all right, guys, it's going to wrap us up for here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.